Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to continue our NFL predictions with Week 12. And last week I had one of my best weeks picking. I went 13 and 2, total season record 107-56. Yeah, last week was I actually kind of, especially with one game in particular, I was able to get an upset right. But this is a new week, and before we jump into that new week, a reminder that the two Spain teams in Miami Dolphins, Washington Commanders, and two AFC West foes with the Denver Broncos and the Los Angeles Chargers all have bye weeks this week. Next week, week 13, no teams will be on a bye. And let's get things started on Thursday Night Football, where the Buffalo Bills will be taking on the Houston Texans. The Bills, Josh Allen went nuclear as he scored 6 total touchdowns against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, resulting in a victory. And he could have had bigger fantasy points had he not turned the ball over so much. They'll be taking on the Houston Texans, who are also coming off the victory, but kind of less impressive, given that they struggled against the Tennessee Titans. But anyway, this game, CJ Stroud will not be playing. Davis Mills will be playing. And but Mills, he's gotten 2 straight victories, so points for that. But I think he's gonna have to do a lot more against this Buffalo Bills team, especially if the Bills could stop the run, which at times they've proven that they can't. I think this is a good chance for that Bills defense to do that. I'm gonna go ahead and pick the Buffalo Bills to win this game on the road. I just like Josh Allen and James. I think even though Josh Allen and James Cook might have a rough day, I think in the end they'll get it done against a pretty good Houston's defense. And then we have the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Chicago Bears. Bears, they just know how to win games. Another come from behind victory, this time beating the Minnesota Vikings. Meanwhile, the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Cincinnati Bengals, scoring 2 defensive touchdowns. And and yeah, and Rodgers got hurt. Yes, Rodgers broke a bone in his wrist. He is right now they label him as questionable to play. He says he's gonna try and give it a go. But if I was him, I'll sit this one out. You don't want to risk further injury, but look who he's playing. He's playing a team he owned for the last decade or so, the Chicago Bears, and what will probably be his last time he ever get a chance to play, have a stake in his ownership over this team. And yeah, this one I kind of went back and forth. I've went back and forth on this game like I do with mostly all my games. And I don't. You know what? Here's what I'm gonna do. If Rodgers gonna play, I'm gonna take the Pittsburgh Steelers to win. But if Rodgers doesn't play, I'm probably gonna wind up flipping my pick to the Chicago Bears. But given that Rodgers is gonna try and give it a go, I am gonna go ahead and pick the Pittsburgh Steelers to win for now. And also, it's 1 o'clock on CBS, so the Steelers normally do good on that time slot. Following that, we got the New England Patriots taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. Patriots coming off a Thursday night win over the Jets. Travion Henderson scoring 3 touchdowns. Meanwhile, Cincinnati, this time the offense couldn't get going as they lost to their rivals, Pittsburgh Steelers. And they're going to be without Jamar Chase as he decided to hog a loogie against a Steeler player in Jalen Ramsey. So he will not be playing. Cincinnati's just falling apart. Although I will say I will not blame their defense this time, as for once they actually look decent. But yeah, this one, New England, it spells New England all the way. It's hard for me to go against that. I'm taking the Patriots to win easily over the Bengals. Then we have the New York Giants taking on the Detroit Lions. Giants coming off a heartbreaking loss to the Green Bay Packers. And the Detroit Lions, heartbreaking loss to the Detroit Lions. And normally I will complain and whine about that last pass interference call that once again benefited the Philadelphia Eagles. But how about not going for it 5 times on fourth down? I think that's the real reason why they lost. But luckily, they're at home for this game, for the next 3 games at that. I'm taking the Detroit Lions to win pretty big over the New York Giants. They're going to get a bounce back victory. And speaking of the NFC North, we have an NFC North rivalry between the Minnesota Vikings and the Green Bay Packers. Vikings coming off a loss to the Chicago Bears, where J.J. McCarthy once again struggled, and the Green Bay Packers scoring 27 points against the New York Giants, which means whenever they score 27, they get the win. And this one, I don't know. It's again divisional opponent. You never know with these games. But one thing I found out about Minnesota, they play better when they're on the road opposed to when they're at home. I don't know how that is, but I think that's going to play a small factor in my prediction. And while I could go that route and take Minnesota, I think Green Bay being in Lambeau is setting up for a bounce back victory. They need to do whatever they can to keep up with the Chicago Bears, who somehow leads who somehow is in first place in the division. Yeah, I'm just about as shocked as you are. Now we have the Seattle Seahawks taking on the Tennessee Titans. Seattle coming off a division loss to the Los Angeles Rams. Sam Darnold threw 4 picks in that game. Tennessee Titans, they almost got the win over Houston. Progress. Unfortunately, they did lost in the field by a last-second field goal, but progress is progress. But taking on one of the best teams in the league, yeah, Seattle's going to have to bounce back and get the win, and it's going to be pretty ugly. And then the New York Jets will be taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Jets coming off a Thursday night loss the to the New England Patriots, while the Ravens coming off a division win over the Cleveland Browns, where Mark Andrews scored his first rushing touchdown of his career. And this is a bit of a reunion of some sorts, as Tyrod Taylor will be playing against his former team. If you haven't figured it out, he started his career as Joe Flacco's backup. He was the backup in Super Bowl 47, the one that they won. So this is a bit of a homecoming for him. But will it help them win? Probably not. The Ravens right now, they're on a run. And even though they played pretty ugly ball last week against the Browns, against the Jets, they shouldn't have a problem here. Oh, God. Got the Cleveland Browns taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. Both teams, oof, they're trash. But the Browns almost getting it done against the Ravens, but they could not do it. At least we saw Shador Sanders for once, which of course he struggled, obviously. And the Raiders, their offense is terrible. You mean to tell me that they only had 30 yards rushing against the Dallas Cowboys? A Cowboys defense that's utter garbage. Well, they weren't garbage Monday night. A Dallas Cowboy team that have struggled on defense all season round, when it looked like they gave little to no effort. Maybe the Quinnen Williams and Logan Wilson trades worked. Yeah, Raiders, I'm ready to punt this team into the moon. But somebody unfortunately has to win this game. Actually, no, they can't. If there was a chance I could predict a tie, this would be the game I do it. But since I don't predict ties, I guess the Raiders win. I feel so bad for anyone have to watch this game. Next we got is the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Arizona Cardinals. Jacksonville's coming off a blowout win over the Chargers. I called that. They'll be taking on the Arizona Cardinals, who, yes, they lost to the San Francisco 49ers, but it was an historic day for Jacoby Brissett as he set an NFL single game record for most completions in a game with 47, and they still lost by 19. And I have a feeling that this game could be a letdown game for Jacksonville, as they're coming off a huge blowout win over the Chargers. They could come crashing back down to earth in this one. But the Cardinals, they're not a good football team. I'm just going to go ahead and take the Jacksonville Jaguars as they try to stay in the hunt for the AFC playoff race. And then we have an NFC East matchup between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. Second time these two teams played together. But the Eagles, they survived their gauntlet of they're surviving their gauntlet schedule, getting another win against a top tier opponent. And that this time over the Detroit Lions. And again, once again, offense did not show up, but the defense, it did. They'll be taking on the Dallas Cowboys, who are coming off a win over the Raiders. Offense looked good, even though they took the foot off the gas in the end. But the defense stepped up, especially their run defense stepped up. Now, the last time we saw these two teams was the very first game of the season, where the Eagles barely escaped that one with the victory. And I think this one, I normally would say the Eagles should have no problems getting the victory, given that their roster is 10 times better than the Dallas Cowboys. But division game, anything can happen. However, Eagles are wearing their Kelly Green uniforms on the road for the first time, and first time ever, as a throwback at least. Normally, when the Eagles wear their Kelly Greens, shenanigans come into play. I gotta go with the road team, with the Eagles to win this one. I really hope they lose. And then, oh boy, we got the Atlanta Falcons taking on the New Orleans Saints. Falcons coming off a loss to the Carolina Panthers, getting swept in the process, and the Saints actually coming off a bye week, beating the Panthers on the road. But the Falcons, things are falling apart for them quickly. Michael Penix looked like his season is done, and they're going. And I have been told they're going to be without Drake London for this game. He's going to be out. So yeah, the Falcons are falling apart quickly, and it's just a matter of time. It's a matter of when Raheem Morris is going to get fired. And with the Saints being at home, and if they play like they played against the Carolina Panthers, I think they could win this game. They're favored, and yeah, I actually do like this one a bit. I'm gonna take the Saints in this one. And then we have Sunday Night Football between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Los Angeles Rams. The Bucks coming off a road loss to the Buffalo Bills, and the Rams coming off a big division win the over the Seattle Seahawks. And even though the Rams and the Eagles have identical records, and the fact that the Eagles beat the Rams off of fluke BS, I think the Rams are the best team in the NFC. They play good offense. They're playing good defense. I think they're good across the board. Where if these two teams were to play each other right now, the result would be hella different. And playing against a very hobbled Bucks team, I noticed this about Tampa Bay. Every time, usually they get off to these fast starts, then right around November they fall apart. In December things get back in track, and boom, they win the NFC South. That's been the formula for them for the last 3 or 4 years. And I think this year is proven to be no different. But anyway, this matchup, I am going to go ahead and take the Rams to win this game because of what I said earlier. I think they're the best team in the NFC as a whole. And for the Bucks, yeah, just get healthy. And the only reason you're not in ambulance mode because I do think some of your reinforcements is set to come back sooner rather than later. And now we have a Monday night matchup between the Carolina Panthers taking on the 49ers in an old NFC West matchup. Yes, they played in the NFC West back in the 90s. Panthers. If I'd have told you Bryce Young would have set a franchise record for most passing yards in a single game, you'd call me crazy, but that's what he did. Going on the road, beating the Falcons. I think the Falcons dared Bryce Young to beat him, and, well, he did. This was a good victory for him. Love how consistently inconsistent he has been this season. But they'll be taking on the 49ers, where they're coming off a big road game against the Arizona Cardinals. And even though this team is pretty much on the verge of starting three janitors, two ball boys, and a bus boy, they're finding ways to win games. Well, Brock Purdy, he did come back. Zach Pascal also came back in this game. And the offense just looked energized. They looked like they look like what they're supposed to look like in the beginning of the season. And against the Carolina Panthers, yeah, at home, I know I'm a Panther fan, but I gotta go with the 49ers to win this game. I think offense keep it up. They could get the job done. They're gonna get the win. And finally, game of the week. We have the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. The Colts, coming off a bye week, but the last time we saw them, they picked up a huge win in Germany where Jonathan Taylor went nuclear. He had a monster of a day in Germany, and they'll be taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, a Chiefs team that has lost two straight, I think. Yes, they lost two straight, and once again, losing coming off a bye week. I thought the Chiefs were normally, well, Andy Reid in particular, he's elite when coming off of bye weeks, but now that theory is being tested in recent years. And the Chiefs, yeah, I think they're in panic mode. Another loss, this time to the Denver Broncos, where I feel like they had an opportunity to win that game, but they did not. And yeah, I don't have an answer for it. Is it injuries? Is it offensive inconsistencies? Is it people finally catching up to them? Is it the refs no longer bailing them out, but instead bailing out the Eagles? Who knows? But being but one thing I've learned about the Colts, they struggle on outdoor games. You saw it against the Pittsburgh Steelers a couple weeks ago. I think the Chiefs I think the Chiefs win a close one against the Indianapolis Colts outdoor game. Colts just gonna fall to their third loss in the season. But hey, I do expect this to be a top-notch duel that for some reason is not on prime time. And on that note, that concludes our NFL predictions for week 12. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Gamble safely, and I'll see you next time.